Welcome to Central Issues. I'm George Kilpatrick. Tonight on the program, a makeover for the heart of South Salina Street. Downtown Syracuse is hot, so say developers and civic leaders. New office and residential construction has captured new markets in the city, but the appearance of Syracuse's main hub, the 300 block, anchored by the Landmark Theater on one end and the former Witherell's building on the other, doesn't give one the feeling that there is indeed a renaissance going on. Well, the psychological heart of the city is about to get a boost with the announcement of a new project that will give the street the start of what many call a signature transformation. 4 historic buildings which anchor the block will be transformed into a new development called the Pike Block. Joining us now to talk about the project and the future of downtown Syracuse is Rob Simpson. He's the president, CEO of the Metropolitan Development Association, better known as Mr. Blackberry. Welcome, Rob. I just did that for you. Just did that for you. Also joining us is David Nutting. He's the CEO of VIP Structures and, of course, the Pike Block developer. VIP is construction, architecture, and
development as well.
Development as well. Thank you so much for joining. All right, Rob, this is a big deal. First of all, let's talk about what we see now before we get to what is about to happen. Why hasn't the 300 block experienced the sort of renaissance that maybe Armory Square and maybe Hanover Square has started to see?
I think for a number of reasons. First and foremost, I think that the community has begun to focus its effort over the course of the last 30 years. And it's been a slow and steady climb back to the point where downtown's a vital part of this community's fabric. Whether it's in the Armory Square area, Clinton Square, Hanover Square, we've seen a tremendous amount of renaissance in many parts of downtown. The 300 block, for one reason or another, has been that place where we haven't experienced the rebirth. One part of the problem is the fact that there were, on that block, prior to our involvement in this project that we're talking about today, there were 18 different landlords in 23 different buildings on that block. 73% of the space on that block was vacant. 5 of those buildings were 100% vacant. That kind of scattered ownership has made it very difficult for the community to piece a project together that had any scale to make a difference and have an impact.
Now, I know you spun off a nonprofit, Adapt CNY, I believe, and they were involved in some aspects. How do they figure into this?
Well, actually, Adapt CNY was a spinoff not of the MDA, but of 40 Below.
40 Below, which is affiliated with MDA, right?
Was one of the organizations that we had launched back in 2004 as a vehicle for the young people in this community to get actively engaged in shaping the future of the city of Syracuse. And one of the things that came out of the very first 40 Below Summit was a group of people who had a passion for downtown, who believed strongly that the 300 block was, as you said, the psychological heart of the city. They pooled their energy, their resources. They started a group called Adapt CNY. And over the course of the last 4.5 years, Adapt CNY has raised more than $1.2 million to help support the redevelopment of the Wilson building and ultimately the Pike Block project.
All right, and so here we are now. And so, again, looking at Salina Street, from the Landmark to Fayette, I guess we're talking between Fayette and Jefferson Street in downtown Syracuse, all those. So what happened with those landlords? Did they decide to sell? What happened?
Well, go back to 2005, and Adapt CNY approached the city of Syracuse, Mayor Driscoll at the time, Councilor Minor, and the rest of the Syracuse Common Council with an idea. And that idea was that the Wilson building was a city-owned piece of property. It was currently vacant. There had been 2 attempts to RFP the property, none successful. No developers were interested in developing that parcel. So Adapt came together with an idea that they would join forces, they'd get control of the property, they would raise funds and ultimately look to partner with a private developer to try to make that project possible. After Adapt CNY secured control of the Wilson building, a number of folks on the MDA board decided that it would be a very good idea if we provided support. Went to the New York State Assembly, Speaker Silver and Assemblyman Magnarelli, secured some funding to actually go out and acquire the real estate around the Wilson building. So the Bond building on the south side, the Witherell's building on the corner, and the Chamberlain building over on Fayette Street, each of those was owned by a different landlord. We negotiated the purchase of those buildings, acquired them, and ultimately have spent upwards of $300,000 over the last 3.5 years in carrying those properties, until we reached a point where a private developer was able to step in and make a project work.
All right, so here, step in, David, shall you? What was it about this opportunity that you wanted to get involved in, or at least look at as a potential development?
It's an interesting look because our involvement coming into this really was about We've been downtown in Syracuse for 35 years, started a business 35 years ago. A lot of people have made a go at this corner. It's for 20 years people have been looking at 300 block trying to make something happen. We initially came in saying, well, if this doesn't work, let's at least put some numbers together and let the MDA know why this isn't working. You know, why, if you've got $8 million of governmental support, can't you make a project work on the corner of downtown Syracuse? So our initial look was really to say, let's run some spreadsheets, see why it doesn't work. We do a lot of development work and see where the gaps are. So we initially came to them and said to them, you're getting close. You know, unfortunately in downtown Syracuse, it's a $25 million development. It's worth $12 million the day you're done. Everything between 25 and 12 is really the problem.
What makes it, take me back to that piece.
Sure.
Why would the value decrease right away?
Well, it's not that it decreases. The value of a piece of property downtown is really entirely derived by the rents that you're going to have on the building. And rents in Syracuse, although to Syracusans spending $800, $900 for an apartment a month sounds like an awful lot of money, there are other places where people are spending an awful lot more money than that, and places where they can just naturally survive without having to have outside subsidies to make it work. So the issue really in Syracuse, and the issue that all the developers have been working with over the years, is how do you get a project up and running when the numbers just don't quite make it? The cost to complete the project, if you do it first class, is more than you can support with what you can get just from the rents.
So you looked at it and then you decided what?
Well, we looked at it and came to we responded to an RFP, I think the third go around with the MDF, and we responded to an RFP and said it doesn't work. We would love to do the project, but we're about $2 million apart from what you need to have on this project to make it work. Now, subsequent to that, a couple of things have changed. New York State has passed a better historic tax credit. That certainly helped us bridge a significant part of the gap. We've been able to pick up new market tax credits, which is another federal program, and roll those into the project, which has also helped to pick up a significant part of the difference. So whereas we initially said, MDA, you're going to have to help us figure out how to make this all work, we've now been able on the outside to come up with other sources. And actually National Grid stepped in for another $200,000 grant as well. So,
which obviously to run the building, and that grant is what, for electric utility costs?
no, it's actually for outside renovations.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. So describe what's going to happen.
Well, the buildings, as most people have noted, are in very tough shape. They've been empty for a long time, full of all sorts of junk. 40 Below has been terrific. They've actually had 5 or 6 clean-out sessions so far and have 2 more coming up, getting a lot of the junk out of the building. So the first thing is to stabilize them. Get the junk out of them. We've gone in and we've boarded up windows and made sure that the leaks are shut off, made sure that the water's shut off inside. So stabilize those. And that'll happen through about June. Come June, we'll actually start doing the work there. On the outside, from the first floor up, there won't be an awful lot of change to the historic structures.
Right.
On the first floor, there'll be an entirely new facade, and then where the real changes happen are on the back side of the building. We extend the current Armory Square district. There's an alleyway across from Walton Street that goes right by the Armory Square garage there. We will actually enter our project at the end of that. So we're making an internal street on the back side of the Salina Street block.
And I think you supplied us with some animated
We did, yes.
video of this. Okay, so describe what you can see right there.
Well, what you're seeing now is really an outside look. This is Salina Street, the new facade on the lower level along Salina Street. The video is showing the entire block of 4 buildings. You'll see as we come around to the back side what we're doing as far as those new courtyards.
And we'll see that, he'll roll that in just a second.
Great.
But you were getting ready to describe what would be happening in the back. You're going to create a courtyard?
Yes, we'll be taking down about the back third of the Bond building. The Bond building is the southernmost of the 4 buildings. By taking down the back third of the Bond building, we actually create a courtyard which connects an existing courtyard just to the north behind the Butler building and the Withrow building, and connects that courtyard all the way through to an open courtyard that goes all the way down to the theater at the end of the block. We're also creating a passageway which will go from Walton Street through this courtyard and through the building all the way through to Salina Street. So we're creating a pedestrian walkway that connects both east and west and north and south in the block. That then really becomes the residential front. You can see in what we're looking at here, the main entrance off of that alleyway. The space you're now coming into is actually inside a building right at the moment, but creating this new courtyard within, This will have retail spaces around the courtyard.
Okay.
And it's really energizing the back side of the block. So the Salina Street block, the entire block will have a front side, probably retail along Salina Street, and it'll have a back side, which is probably going to be residential relating back to Walton. Once that happens, then we can bleed everything through.
You wanted to say?
You know, we've been looking, and this community's been searching for solutions to connect the vibrancy of Armory Square to the potential of Salina Street for a really long time. And what we've been striving for is to find a development team, and we did in the folks at VIP who really understand the way that urban environments work, who understand the potential, and who've really, I think, given us a really creative solution for how to move people and energy from one part of the city into another part of the city.
All right, we'll have more conversation about the future of downtown, including this development, when we come back. You're watching CI.